You're listening to the B&H Photography Podcast. For over 40 years, B&H has been the professional source for photography, video, audio, and more. For your favorite gear, news, and reviews, visit us at bnh.com or download the B&H app to your iPhone or Android device. Now here's your host, Alan Weitz.
Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of the B&H Photography Podcast. Today, we're going to be presenting not one, but two conversations with photographers who are also using their skills as educators. First, we're going to talk with travel and landscape photographer Elia Locardi, who is well known for his blogging and educational videos on YouTube. Elia is going to discuss his latest series and how he balances his teaching with his own personal photo projects. After a short break, we'll be welcoming photographer Alan Winslow. We're going to be discussing Alan's editorial and grant-funded projects, including a series in development that utilizes interactive technology to teach about endangered species. In addition to his work for the New York Times, Forbes, and Leica Camera, Alan teaches photography at the International Center for Photography, the Maine Media Workshops, Brooklyn Central, the Palm Beach Photographic Center, and NYC SALT. Okay, all that said, here we go. Okay, we are with Elia Locardi, and you are a Fuji X shooter, all right? Ambassador or shooter?
It's Fujifilm X photographer.
Okay, and it sounds like you no longer use their products when you say you're an X photographer.
Yeah, we think about that a lot, but if I ever left Fujifilm, I'd be an X photographer.
That's okay. All points taken.
It's a little different than having an ex-wife.
Right. It also sounds kind of like a superhero group. Yeah.
Oh, what's great though is we do the arm cross at events. We call it the expos, but then if you say like exposing again, it's like that can have a negative connotation. So yeah,
there's just no end to what we can do with this, right?
Exactly.
All right, good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
That was good. That was good.
Anyway, you've got some interesting educational projects that you are working on. Rumor has it. Fill us in.
Yeah, so since 2014, I developed a ongoing series of educational videos with fstoppers.com, Lee and Patrick from Fstoppers. And over the course of these last 4 years, we've had 4 complete seasons called Photographing the World 1, 2, 3, and 4 that actually takes the student all the way through both the shooting, planning, on location, in camera settings, all the way through capturing and editing and post-processing. So essentially, the season 1, Photographing the World 1, starts in Iceland. Maybe you've never picked up a camera before, never done any post-processing, but within the first few lessons, we're already composing, shooting, and post-processing all of those images that we're capturing in the field together. So what made this really unique is we'll spend, for the first series, we spent an entire year creating Photographing the World 1, which ended up being 15 different lessons in different parts of the world, where we actually capture and create all the images together from start to finish in the field and all the way through post-processing. So it was an incredibly ambitious project, and when we started talking about it, they kind of pitched me on it, and I'm like, guys, this probably is going to fail miserably, because of weather and all these different things. But somehow it worked, and throughout the years, we've expanded on that, from the intro to landscape to the advanced landscape to different parts of the world, to a technique that I use called blending moments in time, and that's when we take portions of, let's say, a sunset and part of a cityscape during blue hour, and blending these points of artificial light and natural light, all the while focusing on fundamental techniques in camera that are important, but taking the student all the way through the in-camera stuff and then post-processing from start to finish.
Whew, you need a cigarette after watching it.
It's funny because these take us 9 months. I think we did Photographing the World 4. It was 2 months in the field shooting, 3 months doing the post-processing in the studio, and then 4 months of editing to get this done. So we get these things 9 months, but then we'll release them, and 12 hours later, somebody's going to be like, oh, I watched the whole thing. It was amazing. I'm like, how? That's 15 hours, man. Yeah, we decided that I wasn't willing to cut any corners on quality. If we created this educational product, we wanted it to be just the best as far as a visual standpoint, quality, educational. I spent 4 years as a college professor developing curriculum, so I really thought that...
Oh, so you understand that structure.
I wanted it to be structured. I wanted each lesson to get progressively more difficult, but rely on that fundamental knowledge that people gain from each one. And it just became its own thing. And on the side, we also have the Photographing the World Behind the Scenes series on YouTube, which is free, which is basically just us being hilarious and doing random things. So that has its own following. And if you are a fan of Photographing the World, then you know Patrick's moon boots are world famous now too. So that's become sort of the transition into where we're still teaching, and then it's free to watch and engage with, but it has the entertainment aspect of us actually, I think when people watch the behind the scenes, they're like, I can't believe you guys actually got that tutorial done after watching how you guys actually work.
Did you choose the locations you went to, or were you given a list and saying, here's what we were suggesting?
That's a really good question. My wife, Naomi, and I decided that based on what we wanted to teach, we sort of had a Rolodex of locations we wanted to go to, whether that was themed for landscape, cityscape, architecture.
So the lesson determined the locale.
Yes, the lesson determined the locale, and then we have this long-running list of everything that I want to teach. But my rule for this is to never add complexity where complexity isn't due. That's one. And two, never force a lesson where it's not needed. So I won't say, they're like, okay, teach this and this. I'm like, no, I'd never do that in this scene. So I'm going to teach this. So a lot of it is we're going to use this location. We think Hong Kong's going to work really well. And then the weather sucks. And we're like, well, we can't teach that. Let's teach this because we have this on the list. So even with that structure of, that roadmap that we've created for locations, we still need to be flexible, just as if we were just trying to get these images for ourselves.
Or it was an assignment and you had to come back with a picture no matter what.
Yes, exactly.
That's what separates an amateur from a professional. You got to come back with something. And that's where the challenge is often, because the sun's not always shining and it ain't always pretty outside.
No, I'm from Florida, so I'm used to 300 days of sunshine, but you're right. This is that's where the whole thing's crazy. For Photographing the World 4, we spent 2 weeks in Patagonia, and I think we could shoot for 2 of those days. Because it was just, you can't teach a lesson about shooting mountains when you can't see the mountains at all.
Oh, my wife and I just came back from 3 weeks in China, and we got slammed with some of the worst weather. And I was actually kind of semi-depressed when I came back, saying, I just went, and it's like, I blew this thing. And I was actually astonished at how many good pictures I got in the rain and in the fog and everything else. It's like, if you know what you're doing and you know that you want to get something, you find it. And you even it means standing there waiting. Ultimately, it happens, and you just got to be ready and grab it. And that's kind of the magic, I think, of photography.
I think so too. And it's funny because when you talk about that as shooting in the rain or thunderstorms, different things like that, you obviously have the discomfort level. Yeah. But usually, when you have the most turbulent weather, you can get the most unique results.
Yeah,
you're just a little bit more miserable when you're capturing it.
Let me ask. I mean, as someone who's taught and teaches, but also as a photographer, as someone who's producing, do you find that one, you can, as a teacher, you're also learning? I mean, sometimes I know in the small situations where I have taught,
it's a two-way street.
You say something and you realize, wow, how I didn't even know I knew that, or I could impart that to somebody. So there's that element of kind of improving your craft while you're teaching, but then there's also the fact that you're actually not shooting when you are theoretically trying to teach. And how do you balance that?
Yeah, it's really tough. Spending too much time teaching can definitely take you away from something like a personal project or an assignment that's really challenging you. Mm-hmm. And if you challenge yourself as an instructor, as a teacher, to always teach something different or to keep learning yourself and provide something new, then that definitely helps it. But I think going back to that point that you said first, that it helps us improve as photographers and artists, that's something that I've noticed too, because a lot of the time, especially if we do things for years, right? We might shoot the same way, we use Photoshop, we do things, but we've never had to explain it or break it down in a simple way where it's, oh yeah, I always use f8 in this situation. And I'll say that, and then Lee and Patrick will direct me, they're like, why do you shoot f8? I was like, because you would. Okay, why don't you use f2.8? You never use f2.8. Okay, explain why you wouldn't. Right. There are a lot of things, so breaking that down, then getting into Photoshop, rather than just putting all this together, now I'm trying to structure it where I can start very simple and then get very advanced without losing anybody along the way. Where I'm just kind of spending maybe 20 minutes finishing this file, but now I have to spend 3 or 4 hours breaking it down into a lesson structure, and that makes me better because sometimes I'll audit my own technique and I'll be like, you know what? There's a little better way in here. Yeah. There's something I overlooked. So I think it can improve us.
Yeah. Great. And what does, where's the next locale, or what's next in the project here? Is it going to be just getting the work out there, letting people know about it, or do you have a destination?
We'll always have more destinations and more projects coming up, but doing Photographing the World over the last few years and having the Shadow series that we have, just the behind the scenes and seeing the reaction for that, I wanted to create something new. And so I took time off this year and I scheduled it all last year. And for the last few years, I've been sort of conceptualizing how I would create a show that encompasses everything I love about photography, has a light educational element, but really just shows the world in a beautiful way and highlights the people that I admire the most in every photographic genre. So I worked for the last year and a half sort of producing the show on the back end until I was able to get the right sponsors and the people involved. And we just finished 7 countries and 2 months of filming. And we're about to release 13 episodes of this new series called Moments in Time. And the trailer is up on my YouTube channel and all my social media. So youtube.com/Elia Locardi or elialocardi.com. This has been the last 6 months writing, producing, hosting, traveling, logistics, and working with the crew. Yes. If I'm teaching something, but I'm walking through a street market in Kuala Lumpur with a friend of mine, Yaman Ibrahim, who's an amazing photographer there, and he's teaching us how to approach people in this market as a street photographer and what he's looking at. I'm with Mindy Tan in Singapore, and we go to an Indian temple, and I'm asking her, what's your style? Do you let people know you have the camera, or do you want it to be hidden? And she starts walking up and doing portraiture and teaching us how she engages people. And we're in all these dynamic places in 7 different countries, learning from all of these people: seascape photographers, landscape photographers, portrait photographers, studio photographers. And these are all people that I'm lucky to count as friends who wanted to be part of this, but they're also people that I wanted to highlight. And I think with this show too, I've been inspired by a lot of travel shows. I was incredibly inspired by Anthony Bourdain. And the way that I think about this too is, I'm not a food guy. I love food, obviously, but I loved his show because it was about life. It was about connections. And so the idea is that we're all photographers today, whether or not we identify as a photographer or not. We all have the capability to take beautiful photos. And this is kind of a show that gives a little bit throwback to Bourdain, as if he was a photographer. So the show's about photography, but it's also about life, connection, communication, and community all over the world. So that's hopefully what it's going to be. Yeah, the show, I'm the host, but the show's it's not all about me.
You're the Sherpa.
Yeah. I'm well, yes, actually, no.
Sherpa.
No, I mean, they just came out with now the camera's 100 megapixels and it weighs 3 times. Yeah, I feel like a Sherpa all the time. Yeah, definitely carrying all that stuff around. And the video production, obviously that adds, 6 more Pelican cases that we're taking all over the place in this production.
How big is the team that you have with you?
We're actually just 4. Okay. So it's my wife and I producing, not including the sponsors and everything. And then I have a director and shooter, and then a second shooter as well. So we're a small, agile team that thankfully can move around. And it's nice because we are a small team. We're using, it's all Fujifilm, all shot on Fujifilm, 100% captured on Fujifilm, shoulder rigs and gimbals. But these days, we're walking around with gimbals and shoulder rigs, and other people are walking around with gimbals. It's just the world today. It's so much easier to be disguised as a production because everybody's shooting something. So it's been really nice. Yeah. Nobody's staring at the camera in the markets, and it feels very organic walking through the streets.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah.
And your sponsor for this entire series is Fuji?
Yeah, we are working with Fujifilm, shooting everything on Fujifilm, and then the main sponsor is actually Flickr. So what you are going to see over the next few weeks, and then with the releases, we're building a big community on Flickr so that people can engage with this show and actually make recommendations for people that we interview, places we go, things that we do. If they thought, because a lot of parts of the show is my director making me look as ridiculous as possible in as many situations as possible. So I'm sure there's going to be a long list, and I encourage a long list of ways that I can look even more ridiculous. That'd be tremendously helpful to us.
Wonderful. All right, we'll send them in. Cool.
Elia, thank you so much for joining us. I know you got to be wired up for your oncoming speech here. Where can people see your work if they want to catch up to what you're doing?
All social media is easy, but my website is the hub for that. So it's Elia Locardi, EliaLocardi.com. And then to my YouTube, to subscribe to YouTube, where the weekly releases are going to start on June 16th. For Photographing the World, all those links can also be found on my website. It takes you right to the F-Stopper store. And if you just search me on Google, you're going to find a bunch of free videos. And we know how embedded we all are in search engines these days.
Yes, we are. Sure. Elia Locardi, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, man.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of the B&H Photography Podcast. Send us a tweet at BHPhotoVideo, hashtag BHPhotoPodcast.
We are back at Optic 2019, and we have spoken with a number of photographers. And Alan Winslow is a photographer who's working on some very interesting projects. One in particular is about endangered animals. You're actually speaking here. You just had some experiences with the new Fuji GFX, I believe it's called.
Yeah, the GFX 100. Yeah,
That is the 100, and that's the 100 megapixel medium format camera.
Yeah.
And you went out to Yosemite with it.
Yeah,
And did alternative landscapes.
Yeah, we were doing some experimenting with the camera and trying to make some compositions that were a little untraditional in terms of the landscapes that usually are coming out of Yosemite, and just having a good time playing with this brand new camera.
Well, I shot with the last model, the 50, and that's a pretty amazing camera.
Yeah.
In many, many ways. And now we've doubled the resolving power out of that. Which cameras have you been working with prior to this? Like, what did you consider a high megapixel camera? What were you using?
Yeah, I mean, I was using the 50 before, and I was also using the Fuji XT3. So kind of
Okay,
the full
so you
range.
are a Fuji shooter.
Yeah, in the past I shot with Canons also.
Okay.
And I've always had my hands on as many types of cameras as possible because I teach a lot of workshops too, so I got to keep up to date.
You got to
with
know
this.
what you're doing.
Yeah, with all the different models and all the different manufacturers. But recently I've been just shooting with Fuji.
So since you were shooting with the 50 megapixel, the GF, the S, was it that you had?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a big difference, a real noticeable difference between the 50 and the 100?
Yeah, I mean the way the files process is a little different. The image stabilization inside the camera body is just unbelievable. So I'm just going out in Yosemite. I didn't even bring a tripod or anything. I just carrying this camera around, hand holding it, and just making beautiful files. Just holding a large format camera.
How large are the files when they open up?
Like 200 megs.
So they must have given. I mean, the camera was just announced. I mean, not even for America, but for the world, just a week or two ago, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and when were you out there shooting it? I mean, when did they give you the camera?
They gave me the camera a couple weeks ago. So a couple
so
weeks.
this is recent.
Yeah,
okay.
a couple weeks before it was launched.
It was
got you.
disguised as a Holga.
Yeah.
You had to pick this,
Did you have to
this
sign
thing on it.
anything, like some kind of NDA, and like
yeah.
disguise it as something else when you're
Yeah.
out
And they
there?
put black tape over the. We get advanced cameras, and they put tape all over. You don't know what you're shooting with.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Were you by yourself out there, or were you shooting with someone else? Or?
No, I was shooting by myself, but I was out there with some friends.
Okay,
Yeah, just
you
to,
made a trip out of it.
yeah. And
Yeah.
usually when I'm off shooting, I'll go off by myself and just go into the wilderness.
I mean,
all
I
by
don't
myself.
necessarily know you as a landscape photographer, though. I mean, I've seen your work, your portraiture work, the geography of youth.
Yeah.
This is going back several years now, and some bird work and some ornithologists you've shot. So I
Yeah.
guess that's some portraiture work. But was that new to you, the landscape stuff, or how'd they grab you to do that?
Yeah, I've always I've always dabbled in landscape work, but I wouldn't say that was necessarily my specialty.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mostly a portrait shooter and do these long form projects, and so just came up with, we're just brainstorming ideas, and we came up
Look,
with
when
some
Fuji
really fun.
comes to you and says, "I have a brand new camera, 100 megapixel. Would you like to go photograph some national parks?"
no, instead of
You don't
saying-
think about it. You just, of course I do. Yeah,
Instead
it's
of
right
saying
up my
I'm not
alley.
a landscape photographer, you say I'm an alternative landscape
Oh, that's right.
Exactly.
So
I'm the
tell me-
alternative to landscape photographers.
Give me like an example if you can. Like, let's say you're looking at a legendary vista out there, and did you just kind of let yourself be spoken to in an alternative way as to how you're gonna frame that vista, or did you just look for things that were really never photographed before, at least as far as you know?
Yeah. So what I was doing, how the whole process worked for me was that I always look at the master's work whenever I go anywhere. And so I was looking at master's work. I was looking at stuff that's coming out, like even all the way down to social media, just looking at photos coming out of the park. And that park is photographed all the time. And so I was there, and I was just, I wanted to break down the park in terms of like what makes up the park, like water and the rocks, and so instead of just going for the sweeping views, I was getting really tight on those individual elements. So focusing on just this piece of the waterfall or just the rocks, the bare rocks by themselves, and just like getting really, really, really close.
So you're getting into details, not the big picture.
Yes, exactly. And trying to just get close. And what was cool about the camera is that a lot of the things that I wanted to photograph are too far away. And so with these file sizes, I can zoom in and crop just a small portion of the thing and bring the photos back to my studio and just like look at them and be like, this is the
so there was some photography going on within this. Yeah. Oh,
yeah, which is something I've never really done in the past, but it was really
so
fun
a lot
experience.
of your final images are actually crops of within the other
crops.
picture. Yeah, I've worked that way sometimes, and a lot of people will bang you over the head for that, but there is something to be said about working that way as well, because sometimes, like you said, what you wanted to photograph is far away from you.
Yeah.
And you can't physically get to it, or you can't just walk up to some things or step away to get further away. And I find that quite often, I'm more concerned about the end image, how tight and graphic it is. And I know some people go nuts when you say that you've cropped an image, or you're not a purist. No, you are a purist. You're going to exactly where the picture is. Your camera takes in too much.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really what it is. So you are dealing with a lot of cropping, and this camera does give you a lot of wiggle room for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the it's all about making that final image, right? And I think if you're honest about how you're making that final image, there's never a point where I'm saying like, no, I was right up on that rock. Yeah. I was climbing, I was rappelling, and I took it. No, I even the presentation I actually showed the original file, and then I showed with a red box around where I cropped in. So I could just give a visualization and be 100% honest about that image.
And there's no difference between doing that and say, I have a normal lens and I put a 200 millimeter lens. You're cropping.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
That's really what it is.
It's a testament to the camera too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That was my question. I mean, were you doing this partly to kind of show off what the camera can do, or was it maybe a bit of an art project and kind of this idea of, all right, this is what I want to show based on my version of landscape, and I'm not going to repeat the master's work. I'm going to bring some kind of theory to it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do something a little different than what I've seen before. And I've always loved experimenting in my work anyways. And so there was this other project I was working on in the national parks where I was photographing epic views that, where a national parks where there's like the sign that says like, take your photo here,
Yeah, photo op.
Yes. Those. And so I started.
Directives.
Yeah, exactly. And I was taking photos from those famous viewpoints and then stripping out the 12 most represented colors out of those files and just then making essentially banded colors as the final print. And so I've always been like have fun experimenting and in my class today I was talking about how that it's fun to take those risks, but also know that a lot of those projects are going to fail, and but you got to keep pushing and keep trying and stuff like that. Those who may not win the contest or may not get the job, but it's fun to keep experimenting and exploring.
You have to do it.
There are a lot of classic images you see of a lot of the national parks. And you know that whoever took the picture you're looking at had 40 other people standing around with them grabbing that same moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you avoid any of those spots, or would you still just work with them and figure, I'm just going to do what I'm doing regardless?
A mix. Sometimes I'd go off into the wilderness, and sometimes I'd just go to the popular spots. I mean, the popular spots are popular because there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they're epic. So just trying to look at it in a different way.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And did you, speaking of the camera, did you have... again, it probably was an early model, or even if it wasn't, we don't want to get into like bad mouthing a camera here or anything, but were there I'm wondering about power issues and battery issues with such a camera, such a big screen, stuff like that. Was there any issues along those lines?
I had no issues. I used one set of batteries the entire time I was out there, so I had no issues there at all.
Cool.
Yeah, it was incredible. Great. It was a beautiful camera.
And like the handling, the transition from the 50 to the 100 is pretty similar?
Yeah, really similar.
Yeah. If you know the Fuji menu system and all, it's all there for you?
That's what I was curious about, how it handled compared to the 50. Because the 50 was kind of weird to me. You'd push the button, and it's like, why did it just take so long to go kerchunk? And I feared I missed a lot of pictures. I got them all. But it always felt like there was a weird delay because of all this going on in the camera.
Yeah.
Is that not an issue with it?
No, I've never had any issues with it. Yeah. Worked fine for me.
What lenses did you take out there?
So That's a good question. I brought the whole line of lenses.
Why not?
'Cause, but I was in
You're
my,
like, excuse me, guys. I mean, just two? Come on.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Were those your lenses from the GFS, or did they give you lenses?
no, they let me borrow the lenses.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I was using picking up because I was also testing and having just playing with the camera. So I was like, going through a mix of lenses.
Sure.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, right. I mean, totally. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this Project Refuge that is still a working working title, we'll call it. Yeah. But it sounds like a great project, and it brings together, from what I'm understanding, your need or your want to experiment, but also issues that are important to you. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, so a lot of my personal projects revolve around mixing science with art, and so I love reading peer-reviewed journals and taking that data and turning it into some sort of visual art. And so this new project that I've been working on for a little bit over 4 years now is documenting threatened and endangered species around the world. So anytime I'm on a project, I'll buffer my time to go and photograph these species. And I wanted something a little more, to me, that had a little more punch than just a still image. And because there's a lot of amazing photographers that are doing endangered species work that are just incredible. And so I wanted to kind of get away from just the still image. And so what I did was I developed with a developer a piece of software where I import the image into this software, and it projects it on the wall or wherever I can project. And the image starts to fade based on the predicted extinction rate of the species. And so it will fade over the duration of the show. And I didn't want it to be completely morbid and really sad, so I wanted to talk about the conservation aspect of the animals. And so I added another element where we hacked infrared cameras, and we can map out the space that we're showing in. And people can walk into these engagement zones per species. And if someone's standing there looking at the photo, then the image will regenerate, and it'll eventually regenerate to 100% opacity. But if they step out, it'll start fading again. And
is that feel as you're a viewer? Is it happening almost fast enough that you can kind of understand your role within the fading and regeneration?
Yeah. So right now I've only had shows that are a shorter period of time, where it's happening. You could see it visually happening really quickly, and then with longer shows, there's more of like a call to action, and it's a much slower process. So for the shorter ones, it's a much quicker thing, so you can see it.
And have you seen people's reactions to the point that they're like, feeling a little guilty about moving out of the zone?
Well, yeah. So with this kind of like experimental work, you're just like, oh, is this going to work? How's it going to go? And my first showing of it was I was testing the technology to see if it even can hold, and just see people's reactions to it and see if we can tweak it or what we have to do. And it was really cool to see people were talking to their friends or like texting their friends, like, I'm going to stand in the endangered zone until you get here and stuff like that. And so the engagement was really interesting. And then also people started to talk about their views on this topic. With these types of projects, I never try to put my point of view. I just take the science and I make the work, and I hope that it just brings a wide swath of people with varying opinions and have conversation around the topic. And and so far that's what's.
And you take all the photos too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And can you talk about that process a little bit, because finding endangered animals in the wild is not easy.
No. Yeah. That's. There's been trips where I have come out with no photos.
Oh, yeah?
I'll take some landscape stuff or whatever, but I'll contact researchers or scientists in that region that I'm going to, and then most of the time they'll give me amazing tips, and they'll help me as much as they possibly can. I feel like that's an overlooked resource, especially if you want to do some wildlife or landscape work is go to the people that are in the field all the time. And
It comes up a lot in here.
People who live it and breathe it.
Many
Yeah.
photographers have spoken about the relationship that they've developed with scientists over the years for these reasons.
They're really passionate people, and they want to talk about this stuff too. And
You want to get it out there. Get this stuff out there.
producing visuals for them is incredible for everybody. So reach out to people. They'll help me with the access and whatever, and then I'll go out and. It's just a lot of times it's just like backpacking to a spot and hoping that something happens, and just sitting there and just trying to be patient and just doing the best you can. And
so you're kind of wearing different hats in these projects. I mean, one day you're out there with maybe with the long lenses, you're the nature guy, waiting for that right moment, and then the next day you're in the gallery working out the tech of the show.
I would rather sit in the field for a month and not get a photo than code, but it's all part of the whole process,
And so one question I had, and I guess, it's involving with the engagement zones, and maybe you said the longer projects, they're things that people can do. Is that kind of maybe part of it ultimately, where it's not just standing there as engagement, but doing something in the bigger picture of conservation to create the animal, the image to come back?
You're saying like, would I add that element?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I mean, something you could do in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, there's been we've coded some capabilities of doing some other interactions that haven't been released yet. Yeah. But there's always those options.
Like if you hold food near that comes back faster. Or something.
Exactly. Yeah. My whole thought process and concept behind all of these types of projects is like I was saying, I don't necessarily have a call to action at the shows.
Yeah.
Any of my interactive pieces, I'm trying to bring as many people together to have a conversation. And
it's about awareness.
Yeah, and also, I did this project years ago on photographing and interviewing people in small town America about their views on the environment, and it was everything from people who believed in climate change to who didn't believe in climate change, and all together in one show. And then I invited whoever wanted to come to have that conversation. And so like the goal of my shows is these projects are not necessarily to like bring false hope or bring that kind of conversation. It's more of just like getting people together and saying this is a thing that's happening, and we know that this species is almost extinct. That's not like.
But you have a dialogue going on where there wouldn't be a dialogue otherwise.
It's encouraging people to think about it.
Yeah.
They may not normally think about it.
Yeah, and I don't feel it's my role to push my political or agenda or my thought process behind it. I just literally want as many people to come together and talk about their views. And if change happens, then that's good. In either way. So
Gotcha.
It's more of a dialogue.
So what other projects do you want to talk about? Anything else going on? What do you have? Any kind of, I don't know, short, like fill the gap type of projects that keep the juices flowing?
Weddings, bar mitzvahs,
and the paychecks coming in or anything like that? Or any assignments?
I'm still doing, the big long projects they're fun, but they don't necessarily always pay the bills.
Right,
So
right.
I still do my editorial and my commercial work that I've been doing for, now it's like 12 years.
Yeah.
I'm starting to,
it's starting to
been
get
a while.
Goes by.
It
Goes by.
It goes by, real fast. And then I still teach my workshops. So I'm teaching photography around the country at different workshops. Just like, the classic freelance
tell us some
balancing,
information. Yeah,
balancing all the
about
things.
Everybody else here, right? Yeah.
Keeps it exciting.
Totally.
Keeps me active. I love it.
So then, can you tell us a little bit about how people can find your work?
Yeah. So you can go to my website, alanwinslow.com, and then same on social media, just Alan Winslow.
Okay. Okay. And you're Brooklyn based, though, right? Yeah. That's what I thought. Cool.
And as much as I can be in Brooklyn, I get to travel a lot, which is amazing. So, but
wonderful.
It's good to be back home for a little bit.
Fantastic.
Cool.
All right. So alanwinslow.com and on Instagram the same.
Yeah.
And all right, take a look.
I want to throw one last thought in this because we're kind of winding up our show coverage, and I think this year we've seen more photographers working on projects that are more worldly rather than just vanity projects that make them feel good. Their personal work. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but seem to be seeing more projects where people are about taking pictures for bigger reasons than satisfying one's particular ego.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a neat thing to see.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think that's part of our role is to get images that
we are communicators.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's it.
it's an honor to have this job. You know, I feel lucky every day that I get to pick up a camera and go make photos of incredible things. So,
Don't you ever forget that.
Yeah, if I do, you tell me.
Okay.
We'll call you out.
You should. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Alan, thank you so much for joining us.
that
wraps up another fine episode. Be sure to tune in next week when we announce the winners of our B&H Photography Podcast Panasonic Lumix S1 sweepstakes. And also, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform to hear all of our upcoming episodes, including a soon-to-be-released conversation with actor photographer Jeff Bridges. And we're going to be talking about his latest book on panoramic photography. We had a blast doing it. Until then, on behalf of John, Jason, and myself, thank you so much for tuning in today.